Some of the most terrifying creatures can be found throughout Europe, with it being such a large place, and many sinister things lurk in the shadows. Demons are the most horrific and unforgiving creatures that can wreak havoc on the people of Europe and around the world. Coming in at number 5, we have the Villa. The Villa are Eastern Europe's nymphs or mountain fairies who can be found living in hills and mountains. Some versions of folklore claim that the Villa live up in the clouds, but throughout history these creatures are almost always spotted in the wilderness in all versions of folklore. These mysterious creatures are believed to have power over the wind, and they are credited with causing windstorms that can wreak havoc on the surrounding communities and urban structures. Those who claim to have seen the Villa say that they appear as beautiful women who sparkle in dresses made of leaves and flowers, while others claim they are ghost-like creatures wrapped in long cloaks or rich blue robes. Unlike many of the creepy creatures who haunt the forests and homes of Eastern Europe, the Villa are beautiful and feminine, but don't let their appearance fool you. While many believe they are helpful creatures, many people throughout Europe claim they are destructive and use their appearance for their gain. They are known to tempt men to dance with them, then rob and kill them, and then hide their bodies in the clouds or throughout the dense wilderness. These demons are incredibly strong and powerful and are known to end the lives of men who defy them or break promises. You will know that you are in the territory of the Villa if you see deep rings in the grass. This is the sign that the Villa has danced in one spot. It is said that treading on the rings will bring bad luck, so avoid them at all costs if you ever discover them in the woods. If you're planning a trip to the Eastern European area, I would definitely avoid camping or anything to do with the woods, due to many demons living and lurking in the forests around Europe. Many locals like to leave peace offerings for these demons. Things like ribbons, fruit, cake, flowers and vegetables are often left on the hills where lighting is known to strike. When locals want to venture into the woods, they hope that these peace offerings will bring them luck and keep them safe from the villas. In at number 4 we have Nekalave. The Nekalave is a horse-like demon from Akkadian mythology that combines equine and human elements, originating from the Orkney Islands in the Northern Isles of Scotland. Also has the origins in Norse mythology, and British folklorist Catherine Briggs called it the nastiest of all the demons of Scotland's Northern Isles. This demon's breath was thought to wilt crops and sicken livestock, and the creature was held responsible for droughts and epidemics on lands even though it's predominantly a sea dweller. This demon could cause mass destructions for the locals across land and sea, which is why many believe it to be the most terrifying of all the demons throughout Europe. A graphic description of the Nekalave as it appears on land was given by an islander who claimed to have come in contact with the demon, but many accounts describe the details of the creature's appearance as inconsistent. Many believe they have many similarities to other sea monsters. This demonic creature is destructive to many humans and the environment, but it's believed throughout the summer months it is kept confined by the Mither o' the Sea, an ancient Akkadian spirit, who is the only one that can control the Nekalave. Akkadian folklore has a strong Scandinavian influence, and it may be that the Nekalave is a composite of a water horse from Celtic mythology, and a creature imported by the Norsemen. As with malevolent entities such as the Kelpie, it possibly offered an explanation for incidents that islanders in ancient times could not otherwise understand. This demon has terrorized the sea and land throughout Europe for centuries, and according to Orkney resident and folklorist Walter Trail Dennison, Nekalave means the devil of the sea. Many people think this demon is only able to thrive in the waters, but can in fact roam the land for some time. According to an encounter with this demon, on land it appears to have the torso of a man which is attached to a horse's back. It has no legs but large arms that can reach the ground. When it's back in the water, it is unknown what it looks like specifically, but it resembles a large, hideous sea creature. In at number 3, Kosti. Kosti is often given the nickname of the Immortal or the Deathless and comes from popular Russian folklore. The story goes that a spell is cast on a man which prevents him from being killed. He hides his soul inside nested objects to protect it. The origin of this demon is unknown, but contains elements from the 12th century pagan leader Khan Konchak, who is recorded in the Tales of Igor's campaign. Over time, a balanced view of the non-Christian human Khan, who dates back to the 12th century but may have been slightly distorted by Christian Slavic writers. By the 18th century and likely earlier, the legend of this demon had been appearing in Slavic tales. This demon has the ability to cast sleep spells on their foes and can only be broken by playing on enchanted gusli. Depending on the tale, he has different characteristics. He may ride a 3- or 7-legged horse, may have tusks or fangs, or may possess a variety of different magic objects like cloaks and rings. It is positive though that this demon possesses many magic powers, making humans frightened of coming in contact with this demon. The humans who are the most most scared of this demon are young women because he tends to menace women with his magical powers. There are various versions of the Koschei demon and have been made into terrifying fairy tales all over the world in places like Greece, Albania, Croatia, Serbia, Hungary, and Lithuania. Many people who are soon to be wed are terrified that their soon to be wives will be taken or killed by Koschei, so many of them stay hidden with their beloved until their wedding day to ensure the safety of their soon to be wives. Many stay away from Europe for their weddings and honeymoons because of this demon to ensure the safety of their loved ones.
Number 3 on this list is the Changeling. This demon, or demons in this case, is very strange in the way that they can attack. Typically their targets are mothers of newborn babies or the babies themselves. It all started from an ancient legend in Germany where the mother of a newborn baby realized her child would not grow or gain weight. Both of the parents were very worried and looked for ways to help. They heard of this magical spring where, if they dunk their baby in it, it will either heal their child or their child will die within 9 days. Considering their child would die anyways if its growth was continued to be stunted, they really had no other choice than to try the water and hope that it healed their baby. The mother left with her child, but while she was walking to the spring, her child on her back grew heavy. She turned around to look at it, but it was no longer her baby. Where her child once was a grotesque demon creature that resembles nothing from this planet. She panicked and threw the demon thing into the water she was nearby. At that point, she thought that her baby was dead, that she had inadvertently killed her child by throwing that possessive demon into the water below. But when she returned home, she found her child happy and healthy with its ailment cured. So in all honesty, I don't really understand how this demon operates. How is it possible for her baby to have been with her, then change into a demon, but then reappear with no demon at her home? It's possible that maybe this demon creature can assume the form of newborn children, and that's what happened here. Maybe the creature assumed the form of her child, tricked her into bringing it with her on her journey, but before it could attack, was found out. Comment down below your thoughts on the Changeling and how it actually operates. Moral of the story though, if your kid turns into a grotesque beast thing, then there's probably something wrong with it. Number 2 on this list is Lorelei. Lorelei isn't your typical scary looking dark demon. This creature is far more cunning and hides her hand for as long as possible before she strikes. Culture Trip says, according to German folklore, atop a steep rock on the Rhine River there once lived an exquisite nymph named Lorelei. She dressed in white and wore a wreath of stars in her hair. Not only was her physical beauty astounding, but the siren sang a song so haunting and hypnotizing that no sailor could resist her aura. Enticed by her song, legend has it that no sailor who tried to reach Lorelei ever returned. Instead, they would meet their final fate by crashing against the dangerous rocks. Today, a statue of Lorelei watches over the treacherous stretch of water near Sankt Gorhausen. So many lives have been lost to this alluring call that Lorelei makes. Why she is doing this, what caused her to be there, or if she even is an actual demon are all questions that we don't know. I tend to think that anybody who sings to people hypnotizing them and then murdering them falls into the demon category though, but I truthfully don't know her exact origins. It's also hard to get an exact description of what she looks like as nobody has really been able to see her up close and lived. Just know that if you hear some mysterious melodic singing when you're in Germany, don't go near it. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Marksman Demon. This is one of the most famous stories in German folklore and involves the literal devil himself. Fluent U writes, a master marksman finds himself unable to catch any wild swine or deer in the dark autumn forests. One day, he's approached by a mysterious peddler wrapped in a cloak that conceals his face. The peddler offers the marksman 7 bullets with one condition. The first 6 bullets will hit whatever the marksman wants them to hit, but the peddler will choose the trajectory of the 7th. The marksman agrees. The marksman quickly earns himself a reputation as the best hunter in the village as he brings home wild boar after wild boar. He catches the eye of the prettiest girl in town and they fall in love. But all too soon, the marksman uses up all his 6 bullets, and when he shoots the 7th, it goes astray and hits his love in the chest, killing her. The peddler appears to the distraught marksman and reveals himself as the devil. Live a pious life, repent of your hubris, and you will be reunited with the girl after your death, the devil tells the marksman. The marksman tries, but he is overcome by desire for another girl in the village, and he marries her instead. 1 year to the day after his bullet pierced his original lover's chest, he is riding in the forest when he comes across a clearing where skeletons dance around cold flames. One of the skeletons, the girl's, waltzes with him all night, and the next morning the villagers find the marksman and his horse dead at the edge of the forest. I'm not sure what my guy was thinking by accepting those initial 6 bullets, guys. Also, how on earth could he think it would be a good idea to use them on deer? Like, you'd think that if you got a bunch of magical bullets that will hit literally any target, you save that stuff for things like demons or even the devil himself. Or just shoot 5 of your 6 magical bullets and then you never need to fire the 7th deadly one. I don't know, guys, I feel bad that the devil decided to pick on him, but I think that my dude could have played his cards a little bit differently in this one. Anyways, at least we know for sure that the devil can in fact be found in Germany. Number 5 on this list is the reversed demon. This demon clearly took some gymnastic classes when they were alive as a person, because they're definitely flexing their flexibility muscles now in the demon afterlife. The clips that I'm about to show you were posted to the YouTube channel Kisa Weba. They were captured by a security camera and show a demon slowly crawling across the ground. So as we can see, that demon is just slowly meandering along, minding its own business. Now, you may think that this is the end of the story, but it's actually not, because that thing was caught on another security camera in the area a little bit later. Let's take a look at that. Now what on God's green earth is that freaking thing? I mean, it has to be a demon, right? Like, what the hell? Its face is clearly all white, completely inhuman. And now that we can fully see the way that it walks, we get a clear sense of how demonic it actually is. I think the biggest question that comes up through all of this, though, is what is it doing and where's it going? Fingers crossed that whatever it was doing doesn't concern any one of us.
In at 2 we have Strigoi. Strigoi is a terrifying demon from Romanian mythology and are troubled spirits that are said to have risen from the grave to prey on the living. It is believed that they have the ability to transform into an animal, become invisible, and gain vitality from the blood of their victims. Bram Stoker's Dracula has been the modern interpretation of the Strigoi through the historic links with vampirism. One of the earliest members of historical Strigoi was Giogrando Alilovic from the region of Istria. This villager was believed to be the first real person to be labeled as a vampire because he was referred to as a Strigoi. Gio is said to have terrorized his former village for 16 years after his death. Eventually he was decapitated by the local priests and villagers to let the terror subside. Johann Weikard von Valvassor wrote about Gio's life and afterlife in his extensive work The Glory of the Duchy of Carnoila when he visited Kringa during his travels. This was the first written document on vampires in relation to the demon Strigoi. An 1865 article in Transylvanian folklore by Wilhelm Schmidt describes Strigoi as nocturnal creatures that prey on infants and haunts the nearby villages, stalking women waiting for them to give birth so they can sneak into their home and steal their babies. In 1909, writer Franz Harman mentioned this demon in a book, saying that the peasant children from a village in the Carpathian Mountains started to pass away mysteriously. The villagers began to suspect their recently deceased count-turned-bloodthirsty demon was the one causing these mysterious deaths. A common way used to identify the Strigoi was to place a young child dressed in white on a white horse near the graveyard at midday. It was believed that the horse would stop at the grave of the suspected demon. And finally, in at number 1 we have Kulm King. One of the scariest demons from Europe is that of the Kulm King. This creature comes from Estonian mythology and is the evil protector of the forest, eating children alive when they bother forest spirits. Not only do they prey on children, but they terrorize anyone that comes in contact with them, being able to possess people, turning them into devils and causing causing havoc as lesser personifications of evil. They like to haunt and terrorize grown-ups who happen to cross paths with it while walking the dark forest around Europe. It is the restless ghost of an unholy dead, and you run the risk of being harassed everywhere in the wild because the Common King doesn't have a fixed haunting place. To make it even worse, many believe this creature has the ability to go through the body of humans, and if this happens, that person becomes evil, thus creating a legion of killers. This terrifying demon can appear in many different forms, including a dog, a cat, and a haystack. Some of the more sinister and possibly accurate descriptions of the Common King are they look like a demonic polar bear, white sharp spikes running down their backs and sharp teeth and claws that cause death immediately. Yes, this demon is a protector of the forest, but to us humans it is similar to the devil and takes no prisoners. If you're venturing in the forest, I would be very careful to not encounter this creature, and if you do, be respectful of the forest and its habitat, if you don't want to escape alive. Not only does this demon frequent public places, but can also enter private places without invitation, a trait that can be found in other folklore monsters, such as vampires and certain types of ghosts. Anyone who enters the woods in Eastern Europe worries if the Common King could be lurking nearby.
Number 5. The incubus. One of the more taboo evil demons on this list is the incubus, the male equivalent to a succubus. While a succubus is known for seducing sleeping men in order to impregnate themselves with ghostly children, the incubus comes into a woman's bed while she is asleep and impregnates her. She then carries the baby to term, giving birth to deformed witches, wizards, or demons. Not all of these offspring become evil, however, with the first legend of a wizard being fathered by an incubus actually being the legendary wizard who served King Arthur during the days of Camelot, Merlin. In the late 1400s, demonology text Malleus Maleficarum by the German Catholic clergyman Heinrich Kramer, the author talks about incubi and states that there are 5 ways to get rid of them: moving the afflicted woman to a different location, exorcism, sacramental confession, the sign of the cross, or excommunication of the attacking entity, which even the book itself admits is basically just another term for exorcism. If we are to believe Kramer's account, then incubi seem to be relatively easy demons to get rid of, being subject to all the usual tricks of the exorcist trade, and being able to be shaken by simply moving. But according to the works of the Franciscan friar Ludovico Maria Sinistari, they are much more difficult to deal with than the typical demon, with him saying that an incubus does not obey exorcists, they have no dread of exorcisms, show no reverence for holy things, and at the approach of which they are not in the least overawed. If this is true, then getting rid of an incubus could be a deeply traumatic and maybe even impossible task. Because we do not know which description of their strengths and weaknesses is the more accurate one, it is probably best to simply avoid any situations or rituals that could result in the summoning of an incubus, no matter how long of a dry spell you are dealing with, or how desperate you are becoming. Number 4. Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles, or Mephisto to his friends, is a demon who features prominently in German folklore. Although he has since become somewhat of a stock character, he is primarily known for the role he plays in the Faust legend. The Faust legend is inspired by the life of a real alchemist, astrologer, and magician named Johann Georg Faust, who lived in Germany during the late 1400s and early 1500s. It is unclear how closely Faust's life follows the legend it inspired, but the tale of his interactions with Mephistopheles have been passed down for centuries after his death. In the folk legend, Faust has become depressed with his life as a scholar and tries to take his own life. When the attempt fails, he calls on the devil, hoping to acquire magical powers that will allow him to indulge in all the earthly pleasures he can imagine. The devil then sends his representative, Mephistopheles, to make a deal with Faust. Faust and the demon broker a deal that will make Mephistopheles serve Faust with his powers for a set number of years. When that time is up, Mephisto will claim his soul and take Faust to hell, where he will be punished and forced to serve Satan for all of eternity. Faust uses Mephistopheles for a variety of purposes over the years, most famously to help him seduce a beautiful young maiden named Gretchen, with whom he has a child. When the child is born, Gretchen realizes the baby's unholy nature and throws the child into the waters, causing her to be arrested and executed for murder. Faust is corrupted and realizes his sins are unforgivable, and he is carried away to hell by Mephistopheles. True or not, the Faust legend has become deeply ingrained in culture, and despite the initial benefits Mephistopheles may present you with, he is not worth summoning.
Number 3, like father, like son. Duxbury, Massachusetts. 2021, huh? A 19-year-old man is charged in the death of his father. Apparently the boy told police that he was baptizing his father at a Massachusetts pond to exorcise out his demons. Okay, modern times call for modern solutions, I guess. And this one, a modern weird one. Jack Callahan, the 19-year-old kid, choked back tears in court as he listened to prosecutors describe the moment divers pulled the bloated body of his father, 57-year-old Scott Callahan, from a Massachusetts pond, lifeless. The young man told investigators that he and his father went to the pond around midnight after he picked up his father from a Boston bar. He says that his mother did not want the intoxicated ex-husband of the family home that night, as he had been acting somewhat strange lately. After conversations from the son and father, Jack, feeling helpless and confused about his situation, tried to take matters into his own hands. He is now facing a murder charge in relation to his father's death and is still under investigation. Both the prosecution and defense say Scott Callahan had a long history of substance abuse and suffered from the aftermath of traumatic brain injuries, and that from overuse of medicinal drugs might have taken the man's mind. According to Jack at the pond, his father became combative with him, punched him repeatedly in the face, claiming that he had not been in control of his own body, and was assured that his father wasn't really aware of what he was doing in the moment. The 19-year-old then decided to baptize his father in an attempt to exorcise the demon, which resulted in drowning him. That's a hard one to swallow. It's also got some biblical feel to it, you know? Father, son, bonding over paranoia. Scott Callahan was found in the water about 50 feet away from the shore in the pond, short time after the baptism and attempted exorcism happened. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. There is an open investigation on this one still, and the young man is sticking to his story. What do you think? Possession? Number 2, Warren, Massachusetts. This New England tragedy was apparently what laid out the structure of the Conjuring movies. I'm terrified just reading that, and I guess we're gonna find out why. 11-year-old David Glatzel was only 10 when he reported beginning having hallucinations and delusions. From around 79 to 82, the boy's suffering worsened, causing severe trauma in the family. According to his family, efforts by Catholic priests and others to relieve the boy of what they said were multiple demonic possessions. Multiple. Things started getting interesting, however, surrounding the family after an aggressive, bloody confrontation in 1981. Arn Johnson, boyfriend of David's older sister, Deborah, stabbed his landlord to death multiple times in Brookfield. New England paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren later claimed that Johnson had actually challenged the demon inside David's body to leave the young boy and enter him instead. This guy's a hero, man. Unfortunately, a deadly one at that. That argument was the basis of the devil made me do it defense at Johnson's trial in Danbury with the Superior Court. The Warrens claimed that the man showed all signs of possession, including growling, speaking in strange voices, violent acts, and talkings of the beast. This is a wild case and sparked huge controversy in court after murder charges were forever changed with the claim that the devil made me do it would be lawfully excused. He was released from prison in 1985. And coming in at number 1, the Dover Demon. Probably the most famous of all these cases. 17-year-old William Bartlett claimed that while driving on April 21st, 1977, he saw a large-eyed creature with huge sharp fingers and glowing eyes on top of a broken stone wall on Farm Street in Dover, Massachusetts. 15-year-old John Baxter reported seeing a similar creature on Miller Hill Road the same evening. Another 15-year-old, Abby Brabham, claimed to have seen the creature the following night on Springdale Avenue. 3 in one night, huh? The teenagers all drew sketches of the alleged creature. Bartlett wrote on his sketch, "I, Bill Bartlett, swear on a stack of Bibles that I saw this creature." And according to the Boston Globe, some suggest that the creature may have just been a large foal or moose calf. Nah, definitely not. With wings and fingers like that, I don't think so. Police told the Associated Press that creatures reported by the teenagers were probably nothing more than a school vacation hoax. I don't know. It's been about 45 years since the sightings of the creature that came to be known as the Dover Demon, and still remains one of Massachusetts' truly great mysteries and one of the world's great cryptid cases.
Number 5 on this list is Der Grossman. This demon is very similar to Slenderman and is just as dangerous. Slenderman Wiki says it is a supposed mythical creature associated with woodcuts carved by an unknown artist in the 16th century Germany. Said woodcuts portrayed it as a tall, disfigured man with white spheres where his eyes should be, similar in appearance to the Slenderman. Der Grossman was commonly described as a fairy of the Black Forest who abducted bad children that entered the forest at night and would stalk them until they confessed their wrongdoings to a parent. The appearance of this demonic creature makes people believe that it could be related to Slenderman in some fashion, like a dark and twisted cousin or something like that. However, it seems as if Der Grossman is only native to Germany, or at least the forests there are the only ones where reported sightings have been. Be very careful if you end up walking around in a German forest by yourself. Number 4 on this list is the Werewolf of Moorbach. Just that name, the Werewolf of Moorbach, sounds super menacing, like a scary creature out of Lord of the Rings or something like that. This is no fantasy fiction though, this is a real legend. Europe Diaries says, a soldier running away from the Russian army with some other deserters stopped at Wittlich on his way to Alsace, his home. They wanted to grab some requirements from a farmhouse they spotted, but ended up killing the farmer and his sons on getting caught. The farmer's wife is said to have cursed the soldier so he would turn into a beast every full moon. Eventually, the news spread of a violent beast and the folks of Moorbach were successful in killing him later. A candle burnt always at the spot where he was buried as a reminder and warning. However, one night in 1988, the candle went out and the officers at the US Air Base at Moorbach apparently saw a huge wolf-like figure within the perimeter. A chase followed, but the military dogs were not successful in combating the creature. The candle was relit after the incident, and the story was recounted numerous times since then. Now, how much of it was true and how much of it was imagined? It might as well have been the imagination of the 3 security officers at the airbase, probably bored or in need to tell a new story. But then again, some of the other officers apparently years later insisted that what they saw was true. This is the big story that everybody always thinks about when referring to the Moorbach werewolf, but there have been other sightings since this incident as well. People have even found the carcasses of dead animals that have been absolutely ravaged lying in the forest. Now, these animal carcasses could have just as easily been caused by an actual wolf or a bear or something, but considering the frequent sightings of this werewolf, it's fair to wonder. The candle apparently still burns at Moorbach, and while it's lit, the people believe that we should still be protected. But if it ever does go out, then be very careful of the Moorbach werewolf. Number 3 on this list is the Enfield poltergeist. The Enfield poltergeist was a possessive demon who specifically targeted 2 young girls. MovieWeb says, this well-known case formed the subject matter for The Conjuring 2. This case saw the Warrens flying overseas to London, England in order to investigate alleged poltergeist activity in the North London borough of Enfield. Peggy Hodgson, a single parent, had initially called the police after 2 of her 4 children had reported knocking sounds on the walls. Peggy herself claimed to have witnessed furniture moving around with no explanation. This was apparently also corroborated by a police officer visiting the house. Ed and Lorraine Warren were convinced that the events were of supernatural origin and appeared to be predominantly focused around 2 of Peggy Hodgson's teenage daughters, with the girls seeming at times to apparently levitate off the ground. So like I said, a demon who really enjoyed possessing people. These are some of the most dangerous types of demons because you simply don't know who or what to believe anymore. If you're living in a house that's haunted, then how do you know that your dad, for instance, is who he claims he is? How do I know who to trust? Also, I am just as susceptible to being taken over by this creature, and I can't imagine that that's a great time. It's easy to see why Ed and Lorraine Warren were scared by this demon. Number 2 on this list is the Annabelle doll. One of the most famous demons that the Warrens ever encountered, Annabelle certainly gave the pair many sleepless nights. The story behind Annabelle starts with a girl named Deirdre, who got the doll as a gift from her mother. It was a nice gift at first, but it wasn't long after she had it that she started noticing some weird occurrences. She would leave the doll in one spot, and then when she came home later that day, sure enough, the doll had moved somewhere else. Pretty creepy. This was creepy to begin with, but it gets a lot worse. One day she came home and noticed that the doll was covered in blood. It was at this point where she decided to seek a professional opinion. She sought the help of a medium to get advice. Scare Street says the medium told her about a little girl named Annabelle Higgins, who was once a happy child playing in the fields until her life mysteriously ended. After her death, she roamed the buildings that were built on this field. One night, her boyfriend, Cal, woke up to see Annabelle shocking him. It was awfully strong. Another night, Annabelle had attacked him and left him with 7 bloody scratches on his chest. They decided to contact their local priest, and that was how the Warrens heard their ominous story. The Warrens delivered the victims a shocking truth, saying that there was no Annabelle and it was a mere trick from a demonic spirit which was allowed to manifest the doll after their agreement. The Warrens told them that the spirit was given permission to inflict harm on them, and that if they had remained silent, the spirit would have killed them all within a week or two. They held an exorcism and took the doll with them. Whilst driving though, Ed lost control over the car for a few times, and the priest who had made fun of the doll was killed in a dreadful accident. Disturbed by the doll, the Warrens decided to keep it in a sealed box. This thing almost took Ed Warren off the road and could have ended the Warrens' lives prematurely. Safe to say that they feared this demon a decent amount, I think. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Conjuring House. The famous Ed and Lorraine movie was based on fact, folks, one of the scariest run-ins the pair had with the demon. MovieWeb says the house in question, located in Harrisville, Rhode Island, is said to be haunted by the ghost of a woman alleged to be a witch. The commonly accepted story states that the woman killed her son and herself in order to haunt any future occupants of the house. The Warrens' investigation took place in 1974 when they made repeated visits to the property in order to investigate reports of a malevolent entity capable of lifting beds, whilst also filling the air with the reek of rotting flesh. This particular was of course the basis of the first film in the series, The Conjuring. While Ed Warren had already passed away during the production of the movie, Lorraine Warren served as a consultant on the project. Of that long ago investigation, she admitted the things that went on there were just so incredibly frightening, it still affects me to talk about it today. Literally, Lorraine, when she was alive, was still affected by the things that went on in this house. It's no wonder that Hollywood saw this as a prime opportunity to make a movie and rake in the money. The original story was just so scary to begin with. Number 5 on this list is La Madremonte. According to myths and legends of Colombia, La Madremonte is a legend in which a woman who wears moss, leaves, and a green hat that conceals her face. She lives in the dense jungle and supposedly bathes in rivers, causing flooding and heavy storms. Madremonte haunts those who steals other people's land and casts plagues on cattle owners who ignore boundaries and take advantage of others. She also dislikes unfaithful spouses, vagabonds, and general mischief makers and punishes them by placing insurmountable obstacles in their path when they walk through the jungle. They eventually fall asleep with exhaustion and do not wake for hours. I think what's especially dangerous about this demon is her ability to control the weather the way that she does. It's said that even if you happen to be walking throughout the jungle or forested areas and you happen to get close to where she lives, then she'll use her powers to change the weather and make it extremely dangerous for you. This has caused some people to die before and wrecked even people's homes. For the most part, she'll target people who have wronged somebody else before, and even though this isn't right, it at least means that you can protect yourself by not wronging somebody else. However, to just be walking and accidentally run into her home and then get swept up in a horrible lightning storm definitely isn't cool. Be very careful of this demon witch in the woods if you happen to be around the area. Number 4 on this list is El Chupacabra. One of the most famous urban legends in the area, El Chupacabra is probably one that you've heard of before. Now, this demonic creature is most commonly associated with Puerto Rico. It has, as time gone on, been spotted more and more frequently in parts of South America though, like Chile. Wikipedia says, the Chupacabra or Chupacabras, literally goatsucker from Spanish, chupa to suck and cabras goats, is a legendary creature in the folklore of parts of the Americas, with its first purported sightings reported in Puerto Rico in 1995. The name comes from the animal's reported vampirism. The Chupacabra is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock, including goats. Physical descriptions of the creature vary, with some describing it as more dog-like, while others describe it as a reptilian and alien-like thing. Some report it as being a heavy creature the size of a small bear with a row of spines reaching from the neck to the base of the tail. Now, after some extensive research on this creature, I couldn't actually find any reported attacks on humans. So it seems that this bloodthirsty villain is truly only interested in animals. That being said, there were some instances where people had seen this creature, tried to stop it, and it looked as if it was preparing to attack them. Like most vicious animals, it's probably most interested in its food, but it's gonna defend itself to the last ounce of its energy if it has to. Therefore, El Chupacabra is truly only super dangerous to farmers of livestock. If you happen to be a farmer of said livestock, then having some sort of mechanism to keep out this vampiric demon lizard is of critical importance, or else it will completely decimate your animals. It's definitely better that you invest in some serious fencing, because trying to stop it by yourself, it could prove very dangerous.
Number 3. The Popobawa. The Popobawa is one of the more recent demonic creatures on this list, with its first sightings being in 1965. The Popobawa is a Zanzibar legend, whose name literally translates to bat wings. This name is not a description of the creature's actual physical form, but rather a description of the large dark shadow that it casts during its attacks. Sightings of the creature have been reported periodically throughout the years in Zanzibar, with stories from the 70s, 80s, and reaching their peak in 1995, before taking a 5-year hiatus and then being seen again in 2000 and 2007. One of the most popular explanations for this demonic creature is that a sheik man released a jinn in order to get revenge against his neighbors, but soon lost control of the jinn, who took to demonic ways. The Popobawa is described as a shapeshifter who takes many different forms, often switching from humanoid to animalistic shapes. It is known for being accompanied by sulfuric odor, and it tends to visit homesteads at night and on rare occasions during the day. It is indiscriminate in its choice of victims, going from home to home and attacking all members of the family before engaging in physical attacks, poltergeist behavior, and most feared of all, forced sodomy. It then moves on to the next home in the community. Victims of Popobawa attacks are often encouraged to come forward with their story in order to get the community protection, in order to avoid repeat visits from the demonic creature. The creature apparently becomes enraged if their existence is denied, and during one incident in 1971 possessed a young girl who then spoke to a group of villagers in a deep man's voice to confirm its existence. If the Popobawa really does exist and attacks the people of Zanzibar, then he should obviously be avoided at all costs, as his style of attack would be not only painful and humiliating, but could have long-term effects on the sanity of his victims if he chose to return to make his attacks a consistent issue. This is one demonic force that there is no benefit to tangling with, and should be avoided as much as possible, for both your own sake and that of everyone in your community. Number 2. Any of the demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon is a grimoire compiled in the 17th century from materials that were already centuries old at the time of the book's original publication. The volume is divided into 5 books, and one of which contains instructions on how to grant the practicing magician an eidetic memory and the ability to instantly learn materials. Another of the books teaches the user how to contact angels using a wax tablet and a method known as scrying. 2 of the other books describe the 24 different angels and their relation to the 24 hours in the day, and the 360 spirits of the degrees of the zodiac. However, the Lesser Key's most famous book is known as Ars Goetia, which contains 72 sigils, each representing a different demon, as well as instructions on how to summon the 72 demons and even how to control them. Before you go searching for a copy at Barnes & Noble, consider the following. The Lesser Key of Solomon is apparently a cursed book, with anyone who owns a copy of it reportedly being subject to constant bad luck, or in some cases even death. Some owners of the book have reported seeing the pages turning by themselves and even flying across the room, while hearing whispers and seeing dark shadow people. If this warning has reached you too late, and you have already fallen victim to this horrible curse, the good news is that it can apparently be broken by burning all the pages and disposing of the ashes. No one knows for sure who wrote the Lesser Key of Solomon. Some of course believe that it was written by King Solomon himself as a gift for his son. But others believe that it was actually dictated by some of the 72 demons in order to give themselves a means of crossing over to our world. Whoever actually wrote it, I hope that it was done with the purpose of helping us control the dark forces that are knocking on the door of reality, and not the other way around. As there is no way to know for sure who is responsible for this demonic grimoire, the smart move would probably be to avoid the book and avoid using it, and summoning forces beyond your understanding or control, who wish to claim your soul for their own. Number 1. Master Leonard. Who would have thought that someone named Leonard could be frightening? And yet here we are. Leonard is one of the spirits or demons featured in the 1818 demonology text, the Dictionnaire Infernal, by Jacques Collin, which describes various demons as well as their hierarchies. Leonard is described as a 3-horned goat with the face of a man who uses his horns to initiate his followers and grant them satanic powers. His job title is Grand Master of the Nocturnal Orgies of Demons, which is undeniably an impressive job title. He is known for having banquets thrown in his honor by his followers, where they all consume the flesh of a stillborn goat, which is then eaten without salt and boiled with reptiles in order to depurify the sinless meat. He also has a habit of transforming into a handsome young soldier and luring young women into the wilderness, where he will impregnate them, with all the resulting children being stillborn as an offering to sin. Male followers of Leonard are granted the ability to transform into monstrous animals, or even into the incubi, which we already detailed. What makes Leonard so frightening isn't just his ability to corrupt people, but the idea that his actions directly lead to more demonic creatures that we are unable to effectively fight being created. In order to keep our world as demon-free as possible, Master Leonard and his parties should probably be avoided, no matter how fun some parts of them might seem.
And coming in number 5, the Picetto family possession. During the year of 1981, home in Lee, Massachusetts, was riddled by paranormal activity that surged through every room in this house. Lee and Dale Picetto, an average hardworking American couple, along with their 2 children, endured occurrences that nearly destroyed them, literally. The devout Catholics lived peacefully in the house that had been their family home for decades. It wasn't until 2 years after moving in that the demonic signs started showing. On March 19th, Mrs. Picetto began receiving nightly visits from a white orb that took the shape of a non-threatening young boy who spoke in a very soft voice. Doesn't sound that bad. While the apparition was gentle, the Picettos felt that they should rid their home of such supernatural entity, and a priest eventually came in to perform a ritual. Mr. and Mrs. Picetto believed their troubles were over after this, but unfortunately, this only caused more demonic occurrences to start. In place of this sweet ghost boy grew an unearthly creature hunched over and dressed in a black robe. Scary. Mrs. Picetto claimed that the specter would say vulgar and nasty things, growling, saying it called itself the Minister of God. It wasn't just the verbal attacks that were happening, however, no. During the sleepless nights, Mrs. Picetto claimed that she suffered claw marks both on her back, stomach, breasts, and face after being dragged around the bedroom. Mr. Picetto attests to this and said that he watched in horror as the bed levitated above him, Mrs. Picetto on it. Terrifying, dude. Refrigerators were ripped from walls, metal bookcases turned over to the floor, and in one case, a crucifix was even yanked from the hand of their 14-year-old son. The Picettos reached out to medical professionals for help, but they rejected their experiences, calling them exaggerated. It wasn't until Mr. and Mrs. Picetto turned to professionals Ed and Lorraine Warren, self-proclaimed demonologists, that were called to help. The Ghostbusters themselves. As the founders of the New England Society for Psychic Research in the 50s, Mr. and Mrs. Warren devoted their life to the supernatural. When the Warrens visited the Picettos, they instantly detected signs of paranormal activity pulsing from the home. In a description eerily similar to the film Poltergeist, which came out the following summer in '82, Mrs. Warren says that she saw many small ghost lights move around the room until they combined to create a towering, shadowy figure. A priest was brought in to perform the ritual. The basement apparently then filled with smoke during the exorcism, and when the ritual was complete, The Warrens deemed the house clear of evil. The Picetto family moved back in and reported no further activity since. And in 2004, the family moved out and on and left this once haunted house for someone else to deal with. I understand. Number 4, Elizabeth Knapp. The possession of Elizabeth Knapp, October 30th, 1671 to January 12th, 1672, is a unique and weird one in the aspect that it was approached from a more scientific aspect than religious, and being of that time, somewhat of a new methodology. Knapp's father was the servant at a household of Samuel Willard, a prominent reverend in the Church of Groton. When Elizabeth Knapp, a member of his own household, began to show signs of demonic possession, Willard took a carefully and yet scientific approach to the situation, which was rare for the 17th century Puritan. After these scary events took place, they could provide no explanation for her episodic fits. He declared that it was a case of possession. Throughout the entire process, he notes in his journal, Knapp seemed to have most violent fits when Willard was present beside her. Willard states that Knapp at first began to complain of pains in her body. She would grab certain parts of her body such as her legs or breasts and would scream out, talking about feelings of strangulation. She would even sometimes laugh to the point of hysterical fits, weeping or screaming out. Hallucinations followed shortly after the outbursts, and on many occasions she claimed to see 2 people constantly walking around her bed. Strange claims like this constantly seeing men floating above her bed as well. This happened particularly at night, including some convulsings on the ground. Willard then documented on the night of November 2nd, 1671, Knapp made a confession of meeting up with the devil. Uh-oh. The old sign at the crossroads deal, huh? She stated that for 3 years the devil had been meeting her, promising her money, youth, and the ability to see the world. She then claimed that he had presented her with a book of blood covenant, which was signed by other women as well. And on the night of November 28th, in which she had a fit lasting for 48 hours straight, she was in a coma state until she made the pact with the devil himself. Witnesses document strange, deep voices and animal sounds coming from her. After Willard stopped entries to his journal, things get a little messy. It has been a historical mystery what happened to Knapp, as we are still unsure to this day exactly what remained of her. Was she tried and hanged for witchcraft, or simply disappeared on the promise of seeing the world? You tell me.
Number 2 on this list is skinwalkers. Definitely one of the more dangerous demons to encounter in New Mexico. Cryptids fandom says, in many Native American legends, a skinwalker is a person with the supernatural ability to turn into any creature they desire. To be able to transform, legends sometimes require that the skinwalker wears a pelt of the animal. In most cases, this pelt is not used in modern times because it's an obvious sign of them being skinwalkers. It's a common theme found throughout cultures all over the world and is referred to as shape-shifting by anthropologists. These creatures are cited interestingly a lot nowadays. Many Native Americans dislike the fact that skinwalkers appear in modern media because of the superstition that mentioning them might cause them to hunt the mentioning person down. This is the same reason why they don't like talking about them with non-natives. We have done tons of videos on skinwalkers before. Stories of people being taken or barely escaping with their lives from these creatures. Stories where people will be driving down the highway and these beasts are keeping up with their car that's going over 100 kilometers per hour. These are dangerous creatures and they should not be trifled with. Be very careful if you're in New Mexico because that is one of their favorite hunting grounds. And number 1 on this list is La Mala Hora. This is a demon that you need to avoid at all costs. It's said to be a wicked and cruel demon spirit who will appear to people on long country roads late at night. Around the communities that it regularly stalks, this thing is more feared than the devil. At first, you won't even know what you're looking at. A dark lump or cloud will appear. Something completely unnatural and that defies the laws of physics as we know them. This lump or cloud will rapidly shift and change its shape and size. Now, apparently, if you look at this process for too long, then you will assuredly go insane. Your entire brain will slowly but surely turn to mush and you will be left as a shell of your former self. And as if that isn't bad enough, there's actually a lot more. The going insane thing is just one of this crazy demon's abilities. It's also very capable of hypnotizing and paralyzing you. Usually it does this right before it strikes. Once you're paralyzed, it will rush you as fast as possible, and in a blink you will be enveloped by this smoky blackness. Then, seconds later, you'll be dead, and the cloud will move on as if nothing happened. This is one of the outcomes that can happen with La Malahora. The other outcome involves her showing up as a human. Occasionally, this demon will appear in the form of a woman. A woman wearing all black clothing, looking like she is in desperate need of a bath. If this is what you see late at night on the road, then congratulations, it's your lucky day. You won't be killed tonight. However, don't celebrate too soon, because it means that you, or someone you deeply love, they're gonna be dying very shortly. So even though you don't die right there and right then, death is on the horizon. However you spin it, this demon really is the worst. If I was you, then if it's past 10 o'clock at night in New Mexico, do not be going out on any dark roads.
Number 5. Marchicha Corici. Now, when demonic possession is the leading symptom, you don't go to WebMD, you call the cloth, and you send a man with a fancy little black case and a crucifix to come excise the demons from your soul and your mortal body. That's basic stuff. But what happens when demonic possession occurs to someone inside the church? You don't hear about that a lot. What's the protocol? Well, in the case of Marchicha Corici, that is exactly what happened. This young woman was a member of the convent living in Romania sometime in the 20th century, when she became the unwilling host to a hostile demon that had moved in and paid first and last for rent inside her body. She believed that not only was she possessed by a demon, but that she was being spoken to directly. The devil was using her head as a landline, and she was being whispered demonic thoughts and threats all hours of the day. I can imagine that would be so exhausting. I get tired of my own thoughts. Can't imagine having to hear Satan's every little thought too. Now, initially she was being treated for possible schizophrenia, but when that didn't take care of the problem, the church sent an agent in to clear out the demonic presence. She was offered a little bit of holy water to drink, but gagged it up and was then restrained to be exorcised. Now, in my opinion, I feel like that's a bad test. I can't imagine holy water is really that refreshing. I wouldn't know, never had it. Maybe it's like San Pellegrino. I don't know. Anyway, she was bound to a cross and was gagged with a wet cloth soaked in holy water and subjected to round-the-clock exercising over the course of 3 days. Now, she wasn't fed during this time, nor were any of her medical needs tended to, and shockingly, Marchicha would pass from her conditions, leaving this earth a free soul, if for nothing else. Now, the priest involved in the exorcism would later undergo investigation, and he would insist that he was innocent from his involvement with Marchicha's death, as he was simply trying to cure her the way God intended, and her death was an unfortunate incident as a result of the process. Yeah, sure, but isn't the point of an exorcism to, get the ghosts and demons out there so the host can go on living? In the end, the courts ruled that Marchicha's death was due to adrenaline injections when she was taken into hospital care. And if you're looking for way more stories of exorcism, demons, cryptids, true crime, fake crime, just about all that scary stuff, we've got all of that and then some. Hit the bell, subscribe, and don't miss a scream, but do that after the end of this video, okay? We got way more exorcisms and demons coming up for you.
Number 4. The exorcisms of John Paul II. Being the Pope is not an easy gig. I mean, I'm assuming it isn't. You're always having to wear funny hats while living in a gigantic palace. You're having to pray for the people of the world constantly, and as someone who is traditionally believed to be God's personal representative on earth, and due to papal infallibility, is believed by many Catholics to be incapable of making mistakes. In addition to all this, the Pope has to find time to drag race his Pope-mobile and get poked with a stick by his men to make sure that he is still alive. As if that weren't enough, he also has to perform exorcisms from time to time. One of the popes with the most direct battles with the devil under his belt is St. John Paul II. When John Paul II wasn't busy ignoring church scandals and preaching that divorced women who remarried would go to hell, he was also known for doing battle with Satan. He performed his first exorcism as Pope on March 27, 1982, when a bishop brought forward a young woman named Francesca Fabrizi, hoping that the Pope could assist her in her issues. Upon seeing the Pope, she fell to the ground and started writhing uncontrollably while sobbing. The Pope tried to comfort her, but she didn't calm down until he said, quote, "Tomorrow, I will say a mass for you." This apparently worked and she was freed, but dude, you're the Pope. Why wait until tomorrow to help? Anyways, Francesca later visited the Pope a few years later with her husband and children to show how much better she was doing. It apparently prompted John Paul to say, quote, "I've never seen anything like this before. It was a biblical scene. In the year 2000, John Paul performed another exorcism in St. Peter's Square when a woman was brought into the square and immediately began yelling and lunging at the Pope, requiring 10 people to hold her down as she drooled and yelled blasphemies. The Pope finished his weekly address and requested to meet the young woman. At the sight of him, her eyes rolled back and she started screaming to be left alone. Old JP performed the exorcism, blessing her several times, but this case needed follow-up from Father Gabriel Amorth, the Vatican's chief exorcist, and the inspiration for the soon-to-be-released horror film The Pope's Exorcist. I guess the moral is, if you're a demon who doesn't want to be exorcised, maybe don't go to the Vatican.
Number 5 on this list is the Jinn, an ancient demon whose main method of attacking people was to trick them. History Collection says the Jinn, or Jinn of Arabic and Islamic mythology, closely matched the original classic daemon or demon. Neither good nor evil, the Jinn were supernatural spirits born of smokeless fire long before the creation of humanity. The Jinn were spiritual beings, formless shapeshifters with magical powers, who are ranked somewhere between humans and angels. They were not immortal and humans could kill them. However, a long lifespan compensated them for these disadvantages. In Persian mythology, the Jinn had their own land, Jinnistan, whose capital was the City of Jewels. However, the Jinn also haunted the human world, with favorite places of residence being the desert as well as rivers, wells, and even marketplaces. In this sense, they are very much like the Roman Geniloshi spirits of place, and it was customary to ask the local jinns permission before drawing water or even traveling into alien territory. If they appeared before humans, the jinn could appear as animals, monsters, or people. Whatever form they took, people could quickly identify them by their flaming eyes, which were also vertical rather than horizontal. This unusual attribute gave the jinn a sinister appearance that married well with some of their more suspect traits. For although the jinn could be helpers, they were also known to be malicious tricksters. In the worst scenarios, they would raise storms and cause disease, insanity, and death. Islam teaches that every human has an evil jinn whose sole purpose is to tempt its human opposite into evil. This reputation for malevolence is compounded by the fact the chief jinn, Iblis, is also known as Azazel, the Islamic devil. So yeah, I don't think summoning these guys is the best plan. You could literally release a massive disease on your whole city or something like that. Also, you need to be extremely mentally stable and strong to not get tricked by these evil things into doing something that you don't want to do. Speaking as a pretty gullible individual, this would really not be a good idea for me. Number 4 on this list is the Yao Guai. Unless you want your literal life force to get eaten, I wouldn't summon these demons. History Collection says the Yao Guai, or strange ghosts or strange devils, were mythical Chinese demons who, like the Azura, desired immortality and godhood. They included in their number animal spirits such as the fox spirits and fallen celestial beings. However, even though they acquired their powers through the practice of Taoism, the Yao Guai cared little for the balance between light and dark. They were firmly on the dark side and would stop at nothing to achieve their goals of deification. They believed they could accomplish this goal by consuming the life force of holy men. One tale of the Yao Guai appears in the 16th century Chinese novel Journey to the West. The story tells of the pursuit of the holy man Yao Xiang by Bei Guzhong, or White Bones Demon. However, unfortunately for Bei Guzhong, Yao Xiang was traveling in the company of Sun Wukong, or the Monkey King. The company first encountered the evil spirit disguised as a young girl searching for food. However, the Monkey King saw through the demon's disguise and drove it off with his staff. The Bei Guzhong tried again, firstly disguised as an old woman and finally as an old man. This final time, the Monkey King killed the demon, revealing its true form, a skeleton. Staffs, however, were not the only way to deal with these demons. As they lived in the underworld, the Chinese believed they were afraid of the light, so bonfires, fireworks, and torches were the perfect way to keep them at bay. So if you summon this thing, you may not even know that you have because it could appear as something else entirely. So unless you have the awareness and power of the Monkey King, which, no offense, I kinda doubt you do, this demon will probably end up getting the better of you. Number 2 on this list is the Batty Bat. This is a very dangerous demon and one that you do not want to piss off. Myths and folklore says in the Philippine mythology, the Batty Bat or Bangungot is a vengeful demon found in Ilocano folklore. These demons were blamed as the cause of the fatal nocturnal disease called Bangungot. They usually come in contact with humans when the tree that they reside in is felled and made into a support post for a house. This causes them to migrate into holes found in the post. The Batty Bat forbids humans from sleeping near its post. When a person does sleep near it, the Batty Bat transforms to its true form and then attacks that person. It sits upon the chest of its victim until he suffocates. To ward off the Batty Bat, one should bite one's thumb or wiggle one's toes. In this way, the person will awaken from the nightmare induced by the Batty Bat. Once again, guys, we just have one of the scariest demons here with also the weirdest caveat attached to it. To ward this thing off, we need to wiggle our toes? Like, are you actually kidding me? I mean, at least this one doesn't steal panties, I guess, so, I mean, that's a thing. Also, this one, unlike some of the others, is actually very deadly. You could easily die from this thing if you're unable to wiggle your toes, which would actually be rather hard considering you're gonna be asleep when this thing attacks, you know, so it could be game over. I could totally see how if I was living in the Philippines, this thing would be one of my biggest fears. Like, I would exclusively be living in like a brick house or something. No wooden posts for me. And finally, number 1 on this list is the Ek. This one had to be number 1, and when you hear what it does and how it operates, you'll understand why. Wikipedia says in Philippine mythology, Ek are bird-like human creatures. They are winged humans who search for victims at night. They hunger for flesh and blood. They're usually described as flying creatures that look like the Menangle but are unable to divide or split their body in the way that that one does. The Ek is also associated with the Walk because of some similar characteristics. The only difference between a Walk and Ek is that Ek has a bird-like bill whereas the Walk has none. The Ek can transform into a huge bird or bat at night to prowl in the form of. Similar to the Menangle, the Ek looks for sleeping pregnant women. Then it extends a very long proboscis into the womb and kills the fetus by draining its blood. It's said that while this is taking place, a Ek sound is often heard. The Ek fools people into thinking that it's far off in the distance by producing a faint sound when it's actually really near. What the actual heck, guys? Most of these other demons are derpy dudes looking for underwear and tickles, but this thing? This is for real. Fetuses and blood draining and just, no, I don't want it. How on earth does the Philippines grow in population with these things roaming around? I'd be too scared of having this thing come attack in the middle of the night. And tons of people feel the same way. Many rituals and services are done to try to ward off these creatures. I hope that some of these work because if they don't, the consequences could be dire.
Now, number 3, Exorcism TV. Now, while exorcisms have served as the inspiration for more than a few Hollywood movies about ghost hunters, it's rare that us, the general plebes in public, ever get a look behind the curtain and get to see what a real exorcism is like in all its ugliness. Well, in 1991, in a controversial move by the Vatican, Reverend James LaBar oversaw an exorcism of a young woman named Gina, televised for your viewing pleasure to watch while you munch on a big tub of popcorn. Reverend LaBar, before performing the exorcism, was quoted as saying, "We thought it was important for people to understand that the devil does exist, and most importantly, that the church means to help." He left out that it's just a total coincidence they're filming this and all that, and it's just out of the goodness of their heart. Now, if there's a slight waft of condescension in my narration, it's because this move was not without its controversy at all. A great number of detractors, both of the church and outside of it, argued that this was sensationalizing and exploitative of the young woman, whose problems were certainly not made better by having a camera crew crew pressed up against her and a boom mic hovering above her head. One critic decried the whole event and the Vatican, referring to the entire process as being regressive and medieval, propping up a mental patient for the entertainment of the masses on a Sunday. Now the kicker is the young woman was a mental patient and was undergoing treatment for her intense psychological issues and psychotic episodes, and her family had insisted that these problems stemmed from a demon instead of a mental health struggle, but that doesn't make for good TV. The exorcism went off as planned and the church declared it a success, with the reverend being quoted as saying she is up and about but not well. And the televised exorcism had nothing to do with that, I am sure. Now if you're curious about hunting this clip down, it is available out there on YouTube, but I'll warn you, googling Gina exorcism just pulls up results for the Real Housewives of Orange County, which honestly might be way more entertaining and more likely to contain a real demon in it, I feel. Number 2, Roland Doe. 2 in a row, me again, hey. Doing a list about notorious demons that led to the church intervening in an exorcism would be rather incomplete if we didn't include the case of Roland Doe. The exorcism so infamous that it would end up being synonymous with the word exorcism, inspiring the legendary horror movie The Exorcist. And to a lesser extent the original novel the film was based on, but we don't read books here, those are for nerds. Now the real case was mostly just inspiration for the film, because in actuality things are pretty different. For one thing, instead of Reagan, the host in question was a boy named Roland Doe, who may never have thrown up any pea soup or twisted his head 180 degrees, but definitely had a spiritual problem. As a youngster, Doe was a socially isolated boy who didn't spend much time with anyone else in the neighborhood, instead spending most of his time with his Aunt Harriet, who was fascinated by the occult and spirit worlds. For a birthday one year, she gave onto Roland a Ouija board and taught him how to use it and taught him of all the spirit world. This would invite troubles into his life. After Aunt Harriet would pass, it wasn't long before strange things started plaguing the Doe household. Growling from out of nowhere, furniture moving. Eventually a priest was called in to investigate and deduced that Roland had become a vessel. Now this exorcism was brutal, even by exorcism standards, which I guess is why it got made into a movie. When Roland was restrained, he managed to escape and slashed at the priest with a broken bed spring. On the boy's body, red scratch marks were spelling out Louis, so he was relocated to St. Louis to face even more exorcising. After a brutal battle by seasoned priests, Roland claimed he had a vivid dream of St. Michael battling against Lucifer for control of his soul in a divine field. Do you think he ever saw the movie afterwards though?
Number 1. This loser. In Germany in the 1930s, a new political party came into power, stoking the country's nationalism and pandering to xenophobia against the Jewish people of the country in order to justify horrible atrocities and efforts to invade other countries, thus kicking off the Second World War. This political party was called the National Socialist Germans Worker Party, but most people refer to them as idiots. Their leader, Hitler, was an evil man who led his country into fascism, caused the extermination of more than 6 million Jewish lives, and started a war that led to between 70 to 85 million people dying. In the face of all the harm this art school reject caused, many people wonder how it is possible for one man to have been so evil. Some have theorized that he was a sociopath, and others have said that anyone is capable of such atrocities if they are given the authority and power to act against those they have prejudice against. But others believe there was another element of a more supernatural nature at play. Some people thought that the Fuhrer was so evil because he was possessed by a demon. One of the people who thought this was the Pope. Vatican documents released in 2006 showed that the Pope of the era, the Venerable Pius XII, believed that little Dolphy was diabolically possessed. One of the requirements for an exorcism is that it is carried out in the physical presence of the afflicted party with their expressed consent. But as Pius was concerned about the mass exterminations taking place, he decided to take a literal Hail Mary approach against Hitler's attempts to take over the world. In the privacy of his private chambers, Pius performed a long-distance ritual of liberation of the devil on the German leader, hoping that God would expel the devil from the mustachioed twerp and bring an end to the atrocities that were being committed. Whether it be because the Pope's long-distance prayer powers weren't up to snuff, or because the evil in question was human in nature rather than demonic, the exorcism failed and the war continued, despite the Pope's hope for divine intervention.
Number 5 on this list is La Llorona. Most people around the New Mexico area are familiar with La Llorona. She is usually described as a tall, slim woman with long dark hair, dressed in white and often crying. All That's Interesting says the most popular version of the tale features a stunning young peasant woman named Maria who married a wealthy man. The couple lived happily for a time and had 2 children together before Maria's husband lost interest in her. One day, while walking by the river with her 2 children, Maria caught sight of her husband riding by in his carriage, accompanied by a pretty young woman. In a fit of rage, Maria flung her 2 children into the river and drowned them both. When her anger subsided and she realized what she had done, she succumbed to such profound grief that she spent the rest of her days wailing by the river in search of her children. By some traditions, the ghost of La Llorona is feared. She is said to be vengeful and seize others' children to drown in place of her own. By other traditions, she is a warning, and those who hear her wails will soon face death themselves. Sometimes she's seen as a disciplinary figure and appears to children who are unkind to their parents. Apparently, children growing up in this area are taught never to walk alone without their parents near small bodies of water. That swamp water doesn't look super intimidating, but La Llorona could very easily be lurking underneath, waiting to come snatch you up. It's kind of interesting why she has chosen to do this in the afterlife, though. Why? One would think that after she killed her own kids, she would feel regret and not want that to happen to anybody else, but instead, she's doing the opposite. Maybe because she can't be a happy mother or parent anymore, she feels like no one should be allowed to be a happy parent or mother and wants to steal the children away because of that. Whatever her true motivations are, all you need to know is that she is evil and sick, and having your kids walk beside any body of water without direct supervision, it's not a good idea. Number 4 on this list is Teratorns. Teratorns are like the birds that you would envision to be living in hell. Whenever any cartoon or movie shows hell and there's a bird in it, that bird is very similar to what a Teratorn would look like. La Cruces says, on July 19, 2007, La Cruces resident Dave Zander, who had lived near the Donza Ana Mountains for more than 30 years, reported something that has haunted him ever since. 2 enormous bird-like creatures with wingspans at least 20 feet wide gliding along the Organ Mountains. There is nothing like them on modern record, though sightings throughout New Mexico have been reported since the late 1800s. Cryptozoologist and author Ken Gerhard said he believes the creatures sighted by Dave were surviving prehistoric raptor-like creatures called Teratorns. These flying monsters are believed to have occupied the area as recently as 6,000 years ago. Well-preserved remains have been discovered in caves and isolated ravines, lending credence to the belief, though many scientists are skeptical that these creatures still exist. I too am skeptical that these creatures still exist. I mean, how is it possible that we've gone so long without seeing them in our world if they're that big? Maybe it's because they are living in hell. Like I said, these birds could totally be servants of the devil in my opinion. Could I believe that they never really went extinct, they just got transported to hell instead? Sure I could, that could totally make sense. Maybe these monstrous birds have been there all along, and these few sightings have been when they were sent into our world to accomplish some type of devilish mission. It's just a guess, but it might explain what's been going on. Number 3 on this list is Eureka Mesa. So this isn't actually a singular demon or, well, a demon at all. It's actually a place. Philmont says, Eureka Mesa is a large mesa on the property of Philmont Scout Ranch. The mesa has a long history of mythical and supernatural associations dating to the local indigenous tribes, some of whom believed it to contain the gateway to the underworld. There exist a variety of other more recent ghost legends, some from the land's Mexican occupants, others from those in the cattle trade who used it as a winter home for their livestock, and still others from the early days of the area's use as a Boy Scout ranch. These involve, among other themes, unexplained blue lights, wandering murderous monks, amorphous horsemen dressed in black, and a lost scout. The Mesa has a number of other more worldly peculiarities to which some of its mystique may be attributed. These include the presence of a large quantity of lodestone which serves to disorient the compass of anyone who ventures too close to it, the Mesa's vastness and complete flatness making it easy to become lost, and the shape of a skull which adorns its topmost area, which is visible on a topographic map. It also has the highest incidence of lightning strikes of any place in the state, making it highly dangerous to be atop it during a storm. People who have lived in this area for a long time believe that there is an entrance to the demon world here, and based on everything that goes down there, I might believe them. There isn't just one demon who wanders around here, but there are multiple. I recommend booking your camping excursion somewhere else, folks. Number 3 on this list is the Encantados. The Encantados are a group of multiple demon creatures that reside underwater. They are extremely dangerous and have reportedly been responsible for several human disappearances. The thing about Encantados is that they're very curious about humans, and you may have no idea that you're dealing with one for a long time. Mental Floss says the Encantado is a dolphin, but one with evil powers. Encantado means enchanted one in Portuguese and refers to a special kind of boto or long-beaked river dolphin native to the Amazon that can take human form. Encantados are curious about humans and are especially attracted to big, noisy festivals which they often attend as musicians staying in human form for years. How can you recognize one? Look under its hat. They always have bald spots that are actually disguised blowholes. Encantados are usually friendly, but they occasionally hypnotize and kidnap young women and take them back to the Encante, their underground city. Sometimes the women escape and return pregnant with an Encantado baby. So they seem really nice and good right up until they decide to kidnap you and take you to their underground city where any number of things could happen. Most of the people who are taken there never return, and as they said, the ones that do have another passenger coming along for the ride. The origin of Encantados are not 100% confirmed, but it seems that many people think that it was a small village that was cursed to live underwater for a long time. Now they reside there except for the few times that they take the surface disguised as humans to see what we're up to and to take a few of us back to their evil lair. Number 2 on this list is El Cebon. El Cebon, also known as the Whistler, is a demon that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. This is a mistake though, and frankly we need to be talking and educating more about this demon and how dangerous it can be. The Spanish language blog says, according to a legend often told in the rural parts of Venezuela, El Cebon is the last soul of a young man who one day killed his own father in revenge because he murdered his son's girlfriend as he didn't approve of their relationship. After he killed his father, the young man's grandfather took it upon himself to punish him by tying him to a tree and beating him with a whip until he bled. Then he condemned him to carry his father's remains in a sack on his back. As the boy walked away into the plains, his grandfather yelled at him, "You shall not do that to your father, you are damned for all eternity," and then set his rabid dogs after him. It's said that the boy's spirit brings death and destruction to anyone who comes across him. His ghost is described as an extremely tall and skinny man who wears a farming hat and whistles the notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. He's very tricky while deceiving his victims. When his whistling is heard up close, he's actually far away, but when he's heard from afar, you better start running because he's actually nearby. So first off, that initial family is freaking messed up, dude. Your dad kills your girlfriend, so then you kill your dad, but then your grandfather beats you, forces you to carry around your dead dad, and then sends dogs after you. Like, what the heck? Aside from the family being absolutely bonkers, this demon is also kinda nuts as well. I get serious Batman Joker vibes from the creepy whistle that he does there to indicate that he's coming to get his victims. The way he kills his victims is said to be very graphic as well, and he won't have you die slowly. It will be a long and drawn out process of torture that will have you begging for death. Nobody really knows how to defend yourself against this demon either. Fighting it one-on-one just simply won't work and you're gonna lose. You just need to pay very close attention to the whistle, and if you do ever hear it, don't second guess anything, just take off and don't look back. Hope that he loses interest in you and moves on to something else. Just a terrifying demon who you need to avoid at all costs. And finally, number 1 on this list is Saint-La-Merte. So, Saint-La-Merte is one of the most famous on this list, and I can promise you that you definitely do not want to run into this one. Saint-La-Merte is your typical personification of death in South America. It is a male figure that's dressed in a hooded cloak holding a very sharp and very menacing scythe that is sometimes referred to as Saint Death. Saint Death, or just death if you will, brings one thing alone, and it's not a welcome gift. No, as you would expect, it's death. And this demonic personification of death is said to be pretty inherently evil as well. There are many followers that look up to Saint Death and praise him. The biggest following for him is in Argentina and the country surrounding Argentina. Saint Death is said to reward his followers by helping them on their evil ventures. Let's say that you're a dangerous murderer, but you're also a strong supporter of Saint Death. Well, if Saint Death likes you, then he'll use his powers that he has to have you evade the law or even assist you in killing people. He grants numerous requests that are all connected to crime and violence and is basically the guardian angel for the evil criminals of the world. Saint-La-Merte also acknowledges those who do not devote a part of their lives to him, and it's not the type of acknowledgement that you'd want. He will often kill those who disrespect him and don't support him. This is part of the reason why he has such a strong and stable following, and many people are constantly praising him and his abilities. If you ever see this demon confront you, then there's most likely nothing you can do at all. That will be the last thing that you ever see and your last moment ever spent on Earth. Number 5 on this list is Delacanon. These are tricky demons, and if they approach you, then you need to be very wary. Wikipedia says Delacatonons are a race of elf-like creatures in Philippine mythology. In Visayans, they were believed to be handsome and beautiful creatures that resemble nobles and monarchs of the pre-Hispanic Philippines. They dwell on Delacate trees, hence the name Delacanon, which literally means from the Delacate or Dacate tree. This mythological race exhibits sexual dimorphism, the men having light-colored skin and very dark hair, and women having bronze-brown skin and brown hair. Stories say that they have leaf-shaped pointy ears, depicted in modern times as gothic, like tall, handsome males and beautiful females. They dress in fashionable manner, live in the haunted house-like mansions, and try to fit in with mortal people. Some believe that the only way to Delacate, their dwelling place, is by entering the Delacate trees. These creatures abduct people and take them back to this world. They hold a feast for their victims and force them to eat the black rice that then puts them under their spell, making them their slaves. So that sounds like the actual worst. You get taken to their mystical land and then forced to eat this rice, which, I mean, I can only imagine is gonna be something really gross, because then it makes you their slave. My question is, what the hell does becoming their slave even entail? Like, what is this world that I now live in, and what is it that I have to do here? I guess I'm in some evil elf-like hell or something, but that doesn't really sound like a great time. The biggest problem with this is that you need to be super vigilant, or else it's very likely that they could get you. If you don't notice those pointy ears, then that could be game over, guys. Number 4 on this list is the Amalanhig. The Amalanhig are sort of like the Philippines version of a zombie. Myths and folklore says, in the Philippine mythology, the Amalanhig or Maranhig are flightless aswang that came back to life after death. They rise from their grave after failing to pass their power to a relative. Upon rising from the grave, these Amalanhig lurk in the woods and live as bloodsuckers. At night, they go to nearby villages to prey on the residents using their sharp, pointed tongue. Aside from the Amalanhig of Aswang origins, some deceased humans could also turn into Amalanhig. These are people who died with unfinished business or were murdered and came back for revenge. The Amalanhig with unfinished business are relentless in pursuing the persons they have chosen to fulfill their goals. Avenging Amalanhig tickle their victims to death while sucking their life force. According to one legend a long time ago, before the Spaniards came to the Philippines, a chieftain ordered his priestess to create an army of warriors that couldn't be killed. These immortals were created by killing ordinary men and encrusting their bodies with dark soot, putting a strange pebble in their mouths and doing other rituals. After 3 days, they came back to life, but they were mindless, walking corpses that only died after accomplishing their task. They had me right up until I learned that they tickle their victims to death. Like, don't get me wrong, I still do not want to run into something like this, but I guess it's just hard to be scared of something that's gonna tickle me to death. The whole sucking my life force thing, yeah, that sounds like the worst. I don't want any part of that. But tickling? Really? We couldn't have come up with any other way of murdering people, guys? Number 3 on this list is the Pugot. I get serious Stranger Things Demogorgon vibes with this next demon creature. Myths and folklore says, in the Philippine mythology, the Pugot, which translates to the decapitated one, is a mythical fiend that's found in the Ilocos region. It can assume various shapes such as hogs, dogs, or even as humans. However, it usually appears as a black, gigantic, headless being. The creature usually resides in dark places or deserted houses. However, they especially like living in trees such as the duhot, santol, and tamarind. Aside from its shape-shifting abilities, the Pugot can also move at great speeds, feeding on snakes and insects that it finds among the trees. It feeds by thrusting food through its neck stump. Although terrifying, the Pugot is relatively harmless. However, the creature is fond of women's underwear and steals them when they're being dried on a clothesline. The Pugot is also found in the Il Fuego myth Tulod Nimputo, the self-beheaded, where he appears to the human hero. He was fed by the hero with chopped chicken meat that was mixed with blood. So I guess the good thing about this is that even though it has incredible power and speed and could be super dangerous, it chooses not to be. Well, unless you're a pair of ladies' underwear, in which case you might be in for it. Actually though, what is up with these Philippines demons? They're just kind of plain creepy, guys. Like, we had the tickle zombie and now we have the headless Demogorgon panty thief. I swear that this legend was just made up by like some super weird guy just as an excuse for why their neighbor's underwear kept going missing.
Up next is the Yule Cat. And this is my Yule Cat. Her name's Evie. She's my best friend. Otherwise known as the Jolokaturan, and I know I'm not pronouncing that right, but my Finnish is not that good. Hope you all know I took a 6-week course to learning how to do that one. The Yule Cat is about as funny as Christmas-themed demons go. It appears as a giant black cat, and other than the fact that it's really big, it's just a black cat. The Yule Cat preys and lurks about the hills of Iceland, stalking its prey. Who does Mr. Whiskers go after? The Yule Cat attacks and eats anyone who isn't wearing new clothes on Christmas. Jeez, Yule Cat, some of us can't afford new dungarees every year. Well, if you're Icelandic and worried your style isn't going to be fresh enough to thwart off the Yule Cat, you should know that in some variants of the legend, he just breaks into your house and eats all your food. Don't know how to tell the people who first wrote this legend, but that's actually not a legend at all. That is literally just what having a cat is like. It's thought that the origin of the Yule Cat was that the threat of being eaten by a giant kitty cat was incentive for workers to finish processing all the wool needed through the autumn season, ready in time for Christmas. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to be responsible for everyone getting eaten by the big kitty cat, would you? But without that little tidbit of information, it seems like the Yule Cat is just like a wandering jerk. Again, really not that much different from having a real cat. Number 2, Mary Lee. I know I'm pronouncing this wrong as well, because this is a Welsh word. This could actually be probably pronounced like Marlon Lewis, but I'm writing it as Mary Lee. If anyone in the comments is a Welsh native or knows more about this, please help me out here and also explain more of this because I am fascinated. The Mary Lead is a terrifying zombie horse that the Welsh love as a Christmas tradition. God, do I love the Welsh. They gave us Anthony Hopkins, Christian Bale, and the Demon Horse. I'm not sure if this is based on a real demon of folklore. I did a lot of digging, with some historians suggesting that perhaps it was once a folklore character, but has now become kind of a symbol of the holidays. Nothing says festivity like a horse's skull on a stick. When I tell you about what Mary Lead is used for in celebration,
you aren't gonna believe me. And if any Welsh in the comments can sound off about this, everyone here would love to know more about this. Okay, so basically someone dresses up as this creepy horse by hoisting a horse skull upon a stick and covering all the people holding the stick with a big white sheet. From here, the horse demon walks around the streets and then goes knocking on the doors of all the neighbors, where the horse then demands you feed it and give it a drink. The horse sings a song and demands to be let in and get fed. The homeowner then has to sing a counter song explaining why they're not gonna let the demon horse in, and this goes back and forth until one of them relents, and it's usually the homeowner, and then I guess you give the horse a snack. It's kind of like trick-or-treating for adults, except you're being worn down by a demon horse until you eventually relent. I can't believe this is real, but it's like the funniest, most amazing thing I have ever heard. If there are any Welsh people in the comments who can please help us out on this one. And number one at our spot is Krampus. Well, who else could have been at the number one spot instead of Krampus? Who could it possibly have been? Krampus is like the Christmas demon. We make movies about him, we make merch about him, we buy little stuffed toys of him, we love the guy. This list was always going to be Krampus and 4 little dweeb runner-ups. Krampus manifests as a massive, furry, horned beast with a long, curved tongue. Freakishly, he's got big horns as well, and he's shackled in chains that he drags with him all around, which he lashes at you to try and give you a good scare. Krampus, like some of the other evil Santas on this list, is sometimes depicted as being a good friend of St. Nicholas, actually. Otherwise, he's a bit of a rival. I choose to believe they've got like a Murtaugh and Riggs lethal weapon thing going on, and they put aside their differences to get up to hijinks. There's actually a lot of like depictions of them being pretty tight like this. Much like Burstnickel, Krampus threatens to whack naughty children with a big stick if they've been bad this year. He also sometimes drags people down to hell if they've been particularly naughty, but that's probably for like, extreme cases, like if you didn't wash the dishes even once this month. He stuffs you into a big burlap sack, and he jogs on down to the pits of Tartarus with you inside. Krampus has his own, like, little Christmas on December 6th. It's called Krampusnacht, and he comes to visit and check up on you if you've been being good this year. If you have, you get some little presents, that's cute. But if you haven't, he leaves sticks around your home to let you know that he is a threat, that he knows where you live, and that he's coming for you later in the month, which is like something the Godfather would do. Did you know that Krampus has actually tried to be suppressed? The church does not like the association with him much, and in history, there's been several times where the Catholic Church has tried to outright ban celebrations of Krampus, fearing that he's just a little bit too close to devil worship for them to be okay with it. So behave, lest you get a visit from the Christmas demon.
Number 5 on this list is the Shadow Doll. Whatever demon took up residence in this evil-looking doll was not one that the Warrens were too fond of. Scare Street says, the Warrens' files do not state why this horrible doll was created in the first place. However, they do state that it was used in satanic rituals, and it was created by black magic using human and animal bones. It's rumored that if a picture were to be taken of the doll, it would project itself into the dreams of the person who dared to look at it in the eye. However, it is not only a simple dream. The dream would be so intensely nightmarish that the victims would either suffer from a heart attack or forever be frightened of sleep because of the horrifying looking doll. The files even state that there were a few deaths caused by it. The Shadow Doll was later found in an antique shop, and oddly enough, a couple purchased it. After the purchase, the couple began to encounter the eeriest of nightmares. They later found out that they were experiencing the same nightmares of the cursed doll, and that the husband had scratches all over his back and neck, which could only be traced back to the Shadow Doll. Clearly, this doll and its capabilities was something that the Warrens were very concerned about. It's one thing to be attacked when you're awake and conscious. Let's face it, this happened to the Warrens all the time, and they were constantly having to deal with scary demons coming after them. Obviously, this was never a great time, but it was something that they could handle. Getting attacked while you're asleep, though, that's a completely different animal. You are now being haunted in a world where things won't make any sense. A world where this Shadow Doll can manipulate the physics and do things that they wouldn't be able to do outside of our heads. It also meant for the Warrens that they wouldn't have one another. They were a team and tackled every single one of their demonic foes as a unit. Getting attacked while you were asleep in your brain meant that the other person, even though they would most likely be lying right next to you, they'd have no idea that you're getting attacked and wouldn't be able to do anything to save you. All of this is why the Warrens had to take this doll and bring it to their museum. This was of course after they performed various ceremonies on it to try and extract the demonic presence. Number 4 on this list is the Amityville Horror House. This is the case, the demon, the haunting, that launched the Warrens to stardom. But don't think that it didn't come at a cost. Pop Sugar says, the demonologists became a household name for the supernatural after their involvement in the infamous Amityville house. The scary elements of this story really began in 1974, when 23-year-old Ronald Defoe Jr., one of the children of the Defoe family, murdered his 2 parents and 4 siblings in their sleep. The house was empty for a year, but George and Kathy Lutz eventually bought the house for a very cheap price of $80,000. The couple and the children only stayed for 28 days after seeing slime ooze from a wall and a red-eyed pig creature among other disturbances. In addition to these occurrences, George saw his wife levitating and said that he woke up at 3:15 every day, the time when Defoe killed his family. The Warrens came in and determined that there were psychic troubles even before the notorious murders. A demon was in this place causing problems. The Warrens knew it, and they had to deal with it. Now, I don't think that the demon can be blamed for everything that went on here. At the end of the day, murder is murder, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But after the fact, this place was susceptible to being haunted, and a demon definitely came in here and haunted it pretty well. It's their most famous case for a reason.
Number 5 is Belsnickel. Now, if you're a fan of The Office, you probably thought this was something Dwight made up, and you'd be right to think that, since it didn't sound real, and most of the stuff Dwight does is pretty crazy. Well, he got some of it mixed up. The legend he was inspired by is totally real. Dwight describes him as being like Santa, but better because he spreads fear, and that he is right about. No one fears Santa, Dwight says. Belsnickel dates all the way back to German folklore from the 18th century, and he's sort of like the original bad Santa. He's a disheveled, dirty man who's wearing tattered, ripped hides and dirty clothes, sometimes wearing a mask with a long tongue. He wanders around checking in on children a little bit before Christmas to make sure children are behaving. Belsnickel carries a long wooden stick with him and threatens to, well, there's no easy way to say this, he threatens to bash you if you haven't been behaving, and he carries candy canes for those who have. It's a very simple set of rules to follow along to, actually. Candy cane if you're being good, you get caned if you're being bad. He warns you that if you're seeing him, that's a sign that you need to start shaping up before Christmas and getting your act together. Depending on the variant of the legend, sometimes Belsnickel and Santa are actually partners who've got a strange work arrangement going on, and other times Belsnickel's just a rogue agent doing his own independent, festive Christmas Punisher thing. While Belsnickel is a bit of an older legend, he still does crop up from time to time, and he's very popular around Pennsylvania, which is where The Office took place, of course, explaining why Dwight is so fond of it due to his Germanic heritage and the legend being a big deal in the surrounding area. And hey, if you love hearing about Christmas demons, I know I do, stick around on the channel because we have got all sorts of stuff. If you're looking for a reason to not talk to your relatives this holiday season, just click through Top 5 Scary, stay subscribed, spend the holiday with us, why don't you? Number 4, Hans Trap. Hans Trap has been called the Christmas Scarecrow. Sounds like the name of a direct-to-VHS B horror movie I would be super into. Hans Trap is another, bad Santa figure, and I've gotta wonder, why are there so many, bad Santas in folklore? Why are there so many evil Santas? The legend goes that Trap was an Ebenezer Scrooge type, a wealthy man who lived in France. He was cruel, selfish, and definitely would have got a lump of coal in his stocking. The legend goes that Trap practiced black magic and worshipped Satan to increase his wealth and power. Now, the townspeople of the village he lived in had a bit of an issue with him, unsurprisingly. He was exposed to the Catholic Church, and the Pope had him excommunicated. The local villagers took his money, seized his lands, and exiled him away to the surrounding forests. See, kids? This is why you should behave around Christmas. You could get exiled into the woods. Trap took his exiling about as well as you'd expect a rich man would. He went batty. He lived in an isolated shack by himself where he became deranged and obsessed with scarecrows and started to dress himself like a scarecrow, went full-on Batman bad guy, ready to inflict his revenge on the village. He stalked the village waiting for the right moment and snatched a local boy to carry away to make into a snack. Well, he wouldn't get that far, luckily, as a lightning bolt from the heavens would stop him in his track. From here, the story changes depending on who's telling it. Sometimes, well, that's kind of it for Hans Trap. You know how lightning works. But other times he gets offered a Santa Claus deal. You know, like the Tim Allen movie, where he has to work as a partner for Santa Claus, scaring children into behaving lest he take them away. Seems to come up in a lot of European folklore, by the way. Like 3 of the ones on this list are about an evil Santa that's gonna take you away. But the next one is my absolute favorite. Check this out.
Number 3 on this list is Baelor. Baelor was said to be the chief of a demonic tribe in Celtic culture. He and this tribe threatened the Celtic people with death and destruction constantly. It was also a pretty actionable threat because Baelor was a literal giant. So he and his tribe could obliterate any human resistance if they so chose to do so. His overall strength and size wasn't his best weapon though. His best weapon was his eyeball. His eyeball was said to be poisonous. If Baelor glared at anyone with this evil poisonous eyeball, then they would die right there and then. That is a pretty ridiculous power and kind of OP if you ask me. Now the good thing about this is that legends say Baelor was defeated by his grandson. There was basically a lot of drama and his grandson fought him and took him down. He was never actually killed though. Legend says that he slunk away to the sea and he still resides there to this day. Summoning this demon is clearly just a horrible idea. Not only would you die the second that you summoned him because his eye, but everyone around you would die pretty soon after that too. Just think about the damage a demon like this could cause in a big city. Like, we'd have no way of defending ourselves. Hopefully, my dude stays in the sea for good. Number 2 on this list is the Shadim. These were ancient demons associated with destruction and human sacrifice. The history collection says, to the Mesopotamians, the Lamassu or the Shedu were powerful human-headed, eagle-winged guardian spirits of the home or the state. The Mesopotamians erected statues of these powerful entities who had the body of either a bull or lion at the gates of palaces or cities. There, they were well placed to ward off invading armies and ensure peace to those within the city walls. In ordinary households, images of the Shedu were carved on clay tablets and buried under the threshold to ensure peace and happiness within. When the Israelites encountered the Shedu, however, they interpreted them in a very different way. Some of them took up the Mesopotamian custom of worshipping them, hence disapproving references in the Old Testament to how such people sacrificed unto devils, not to God, to gods whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. Now, to the Jewish mainstream, the Shedu were false idols that possessed statues and masqueraded as gods. As such, they were evil, and so became the Shedim, demons associated with destruction, illness, and human sacrifice. So I guess if you were Mesopotamian, then you could summon these guys and it'd be all good, but if you're anyone else, probably not a good idea. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not trying to deal with a demon full of destruction and illness and just don't want to handle any of that. So no thank you, not trying to get sacrificed today. Number 1 on this list is Allah. So instead of reaching for a Nature Valley bar, this demon would grab the occasional child when she was hungry. Just great. The history collection says Allah is a female demon from Eastern Europe who, like many demons, seems to be derived from a belief in nature and weather spirits that could cause disaster and disease. Allah was believed to reside in clouds, lakes, and springs, or remote mountains or caves, or in large trees. When she visited humankind, she could take many forms. Allah could manifest as a vast black wind or a female dragon, a large-mouthed human, or a raven. She could even possess people. All or any of these relate to Allah's primary characteristic, all-consuming greed. If angered, the demon could manifest violent, thunderous hailstorms to destroy fields, vineyards, and orchards. However, it was equally likely she would satisfy her enormous appetite by devouring the produce herself. And when not over-consuming stolen grape or grain, Allah also liked to snack on her greed was so insatiable that she also periodically tried to eat the sun and the moon, therefore causing eclipses. So not only could you or your get eaten if you summon this thing, but you might also cause the entire world to end if this demon decides that she's hungry enough to chow down on the sun for good. Also, how big would this demon need to be if she was about to eat the entire sun? Like, that doesn't even make sense to me. Either way, never summon this demon because the human race could literally be at stake if you do.